Right, are we seated comfortably?
Welcome to the Hilton Parish Council annual parish meeting on the 9th of this fine spring day, on the 9th of May. I'm Peter Belucci, I'm Chairman of the Parish Council. Some of the Parish Councillors are here this evening with us. We have received an apology from Councillor Dew. Unfortunately, he won't be able to join us this evening. And you have an agenda in front of you, and I'm going to change the running order a little bit because Phil, I understand you put away time first, and we'll report on the Town Trust, and then we'll go to the 814 because we've got representatives from that, and then we'll go back to the agenda after that. So Phil, would you like
for those people that have been to these meetings before, you'll follow the format of this very much because it's pretty much the same. But Hilton as a village does benefit from assets and land that have been endowed over the centuries. The most recent version was a deed that dates back to 1899, and back then it generated an annual income of a total of £41. So that still runs today. We still have those assets. We actually operate two charities. There's the estate charity, which holds the assets and is the senior one of the two, and there's the town charity, and that's what this report is actually about. Because the way that this operates, the estate charity generates income. That is split 50-50 between the church and between the town charity. And the town charity then, the monies from that are available for general use within the village, and it's on a very wide remit. So the charities are administered by trustees. It's chaired by our vicar, David Busk. The Parish Council appoints two trustees who are presently Brian Ward and Rachel Lawton, and the church appoints the other two trustees, currently Nick Sarkis and Rachel Wood. Now, for the calendar year 2016, at the beginning of the year, the town charity held 13,600. Income during the year was 5,000 plus some interest. And from that, there were a number of projects that were supported within the village. There was the Village AED project. There was some money to Hilton Guides, some money to Feast Week for the produce show rosettes. There was some support to the Queen's birthday celebration, which was great fun out here on the road, and there's the annual Christmas hamper distribution. At the end of all of that, though, the net balance was £17,025. So there continues to be a surplus, and expected income for 2017 is another £5,000. So trustees remain open to proposals from villagers, either for individual needs or for community projects, and contact either the clerk, myself, or any of the trustees as mentioned. And really it is open to... It has a very wide brief. It's for anything that is of benefit to the people of Hilton. So ideas always welcome, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. So, next we have, moved up, we'll do the A14 speakers. We have representatives Jade, Dave, Chris, is he?
Yes.
Yep. And then we have Gerard from the A14 C200 Legacy as well. So, I don't know, do you want to bring the chair up? Stand, sit, make yourself comfortable, basically. And we had some questions were sent over to you that have been raised around the A14. Most everybody knows construction has started. Yeah. I think we'll see that work on what will be the bridges has commenced, and then the road works will start, but I'll let you guys do that. How do you want to play this? Do you want to...
I'll do a quick introduction,
Yeah.
and then I'll just set the sort of the scene. So my name's Jo Pettit. I'm the stakeholder manager for the section of the project which runs from East Coast Main Line down to Swayze Junction. So I did work a lot with Jo on any issues that you guys have got. So what we're going to do is Dave's going to give a quick 5-minute just update on where we are with the scheme, what we're doing at the moment, and the works that you're seeing going on around you, what they are. And then we've received a few questions, but I think the best thing to do is if you can ask the questions, then Chris here and Dave will be able to answer them. Dave's our construction manager, he works for the contractor, and Chris is the Highways England representative. So they'll be able to answer your questions between you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I think the best thing for me to do is you must just start at the East Coast Main Line and work our way west, and let you know, just tell you where we are. So at the East Coast Main Line, we've obviously, you've seen, I don't know if any of you saw a big piling rig down there, basically putting big concrete board piles into the ground. They're in, so we're starting, you'll see the bridge start to come out of the ground adjacent to the railway, and that should happen over the next couple of months. We've not done a great deal because of it's just not in the programme between there and the A11980, we call it Irvine Street, but I think that's the wrong name for it, isn't it? Is it London Road? Yeah. And then if you get to London Road and look right, you can see basically all down the strip where we're starting to, we've opened up the ground and we started doing the earthworks. So we're currently shifting about 2,000 to 3,000 cubic metres of structural material, muck basically, to form an embankment. And you'll see a big hole starting to appear on London Road. And that's basically where the A14 will go underneath the new carriageway. The bridge is being built there as well. So if you look down into that hole, you'll see some guys fixing or reinforcing steel, and you'll see that bridge in the next month start to come out of the ground. And then all the way through, we're doing archaeology mitigation. We've got bridges starting to get built at Mere Way, Silver Street. So we've got 4 bridges that are either being piled or reinforcements starting to be built. And then our work starts to peter out when we get to Hilton up here, and from Hilton to New Barnes we haven't really got a lot going on. We're doing a lot of topsoil storage at the moment, and that's probably where we are. So over the next few months you'll see bridges start to come out of the ground. You'll see a lot more shifting of material as we start to cut cuttings and form embankments, but you won't see any roads being built for a while. And that's where we are.
Okay, so I know we've got some questions that have already been sent in to Jo, so I don't know if we want to start with those, or if anybody's got any questions we can go to them after if we've not covered them off.
I have a bunch of questions, please.
Okay.
These are gathered from various people in the parish, so not online.
These are the ones that you passed to me that I have already passed them to Jake.
Okay.
But
That's fine if you want to go through them. That's
No,
fine.
no,
Do
I'm,
them like that.
whichever, I don't mind as long as we get some answers.
Well, please ask them. I think the best thing to do is to ask the
Okay.
questions, and then we can
Start the ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you talked there about the topsoil. I mean, not heard all what you said, but what happens to all the topsoil, all the logs, the gravel, all the stuff you're taking out?
Yeah.
Some of it I understand would end up on bunds and such like. But is any of that material available to farmers, to parishioners? What happens to it?
Okay, so the topsoil, effectively what we do with the topsoil is we peel it back, and then we store it in various locations through the site, in topsoil storage bunds. Those topsoil storage bunds, it's not just, it does look like a heap, but they're actually designed heaps. So the height of it is designed, the slopes are designed, and it's sealed to try and protect the material. It's then left for however long we need to leave it, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and then it's actually put back over the scheme. Quite often we have a surplus of topsoil, because obviously we peel it away, and then because we're putting a road in its place, we have a surplus of topsoil. That's usually used up in a manner of ways. We can put it back into localised borrows. So a lot of it's put back into thickening, because we'll plant trees along the route, so we thicken, and sometimes we actually thicken it in a field somewhere. If people wanted topsoil, it wouldn't be something we could really agree to until the back end of the scheme when we know what the balance is looking like.
Okay.
Aggregates, there are due to be borrows opened up for stone and aggregates. Those will go into making concrete, going down as earthworks layers for us to build off. So all of the aggregates that we find throughout the scheme and that we mine will be used within the scheme.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. The air pollution standards applied in the construction of A14, as I understand it, don't comply with World Health Organization and EU regulations. Given the government's tardiness, let's say, about putting together any sensible plan or even any plan for improving air quality, I'm just a little bit baffled as to why Highways England, for example, don't take the opportunity when they're building roads to actually lead the way and take more of a proactive stance rather than just say these are the regulations and that's what we comply with.
Okay, so I think first off, I'm not an air quality expert, so also I understand it in a general sense, so I can talk to you around that. But if you have questions around WHO or EU limit values, we can talk around those separately. I might need to go back to get some advice from other people, but I'm happy to talk to you about those. So I think when we talk about air quality, it's important to differentiate that we look at air quality in two different ways. So we talk about air quality from construction, and we talk around air quality from operation. So legally it makes no difference, because the air quality limit values are the air quality limit values, but we mitigate them in different ways. So air quality issues from construction, Dave will be able to talk to you more about those, but obviously you've got the obvious pollutants from emissions from vehicles, from plant machinery, etc. But then you have dust generation as well. We mitigate those in a couple of different ways. So our machinery, if you've seen it all, it's all pretty much brand new actually. I haven't seen an awful lot, if anything, that's not brand new. So we're using the newest plant and machinery that we can, and obviously that gives us the best chance of reducing the emissions from that source. In terms of dust, obviously it's quite dry at the moment. As it starts to heat up, there will be dust generated when we take the topsoil off. So again, Dave can talk about that in more detail, but we do use additional mitigation, so wetting down, those sorts of things. Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that we do?
So for in terms of dust, the old-fashioned dust, wetting down is by far the best thing. We do use sometimes polymers that we'll add to the water to try and reduce the amount of water take it essentially makes the water greasier and stay down for longer. Eventually it evaporates off and we have to wet down again. You're right, the kit out there, I'd be surprised if anything's older than 2 years max. And we use telematics as well to make sure that we're getting the most efficient use out of each piece of machinery that we can. Probably the best thing that we can do for efficiency is just to reduce the amount of movements that we have out there. And that is all born again from this idea of if we can, we'll take the material locally. So taking aggregates and sands from the borrows, that takes huge numbers of trucks off the road. Again, if we can take it internally, you just got rid of the problem, part of the problem. That's the way that we reduce it.
And I think the same is to be said. So we take the material where we can from within the footprint of the scheme. We've also got concrete batching plants, which again, so we take the sand, we take the materials, we add to that and we mix on site. So again, it has a number of benefits for us. One of those is, like Dave says, you reduce the traffic movements, and if you reduce the traffic movements, then that's the best thing you can do. But it has other benefits for us as well. We can mix when we want, we're less reliant on the supply chain, and we can. So that's generally air quality through construction. Air quality during operation, obviously the major pollutant for that is the vehicles that use the road. there has been in the press recently about, you're absolutely right, the government's Clean Air Zone Action Plan, I believe it's called, as well as the Volkswagen scandal last year. So during operation we model, so we produce an air quality model that's derived from traffic flows. So we estimate, or we model what the air quality impact of the scheme during operation is. That model is a view of the world, and we do recognise that it is a view of the world. So what we have done is agreed with the local authorities for the scheme, which in this region is Huntingdonshire District Council, a series of air quality monitoring stations. So there's one in Hilton, it's on Gravely Way, which we've got out at the moment and was out before we started construction, so that we can get a baseline measure. So we know what the air quality, it measures nitrous oxides, so we know what the baseline is. So obviously there'll always be a background level of nitrous oxides. So we know what those are. We'll continue to monitor those during construction, and we will then obviously continue to monitor those during operation, and for a number of years. So at least 3 years post-opening, we'll continue to monitor that air pollution. We don't, our model doesn't foresee a decrease in air quality. So overall, when we talk around overall in the scheme, we see an increase, or a betterment, sorry, in air quality. But for Hilton in particular, because that's where you guys will mostly be concerned with, we don't see any impact from air quality, because you are outside the boundary of the worst zone. So air quality peters off obviously as you go, as you increase the distance from the pollutant. So that's what our model shows. If during operation reality doesn't resemble the model, then we will work with the local authorities to agree essentially what the mitigation is, what do we do about it, and how do we fix it. So I think to come back to your point, because you asked why doesn't Highways England take the lead, we do what we can, and the best thing to do, we can't reduce the emissions at source because we can't control what people do. What we can do is influence where people drive as part of the larger DFT family, transport family, help to control where people drive or take appropriate journeys, be that trains or whatnot. And again, the DFT family can incentivise. So you'll have seen some things in the news recently around the potential incentivisation of older diesel cars, this diesel scrappage scheme. We can't influence that as Highways England, but as part of the wider DFT family, that's certainly part of the things that they're doing.
Quick question.
Yes.
You moved the tube, the monitor, from near the Knives Road to Gravely Way.
Okay.
Seems a strange move, because Gravely Way is a restricted road. It's a road that's not supposed to have much traffic going down according to your modelling. Consequently, although it may pick up some pollution from construction works, if there is an increase in traffic, and if the knock-on effect of the road increases traffic through the village, it won't measure that. So why did you move it?
I was going to ask why there and why not the Potton Road, which has all the traffic.
That's what I was meaning, the Knives Road, Potton Road.
I think are you talking about, because I don't think the monitors are there to monitor the local by an increase in traffic on
well, it's general pollution. If there's an increase in pollution in the village, which is caused either by a knock-on effect of the new A14 and all the construction work, why not capture both and put it on a road that measure those?
So the request for the placement on Gravely Way came from HDC. So HDC's environmental health officer, we spoke to them and they said this is where we like the location. So in terms of why it's there, I don't know. I can go back and find out, or you're more than welcome to ask obviously HDC as to why they chose Gravely Way as the location. Dave's right in terms of it's not that local, so it's not local to road, so it will pick up. It's there as a sample for the village. It's not there to measure pollution on Gravely Way, or pollution on Potton Road, or pollution on another village road. It's there to act as a sample for the area, for the area as the receptor. But like I said at the start, I'm not an air quality expert, so I can take the question away for you.
Well, it was near the St Ives Road. It got moved.
Right.
Just before the construction traffic started.
Because I think one of the consequences of the A14 in terms of junctions and so on is that we are anticipating, whatever your research and modelling might show, that people will use this village as a rat run to get to a number of places. And we're anticipating therefore an increase in traffic through the village, which will bring with it the noise, the air pollution and all the rest. So it's important to us, I think, to have monitoring that tells us what's going on. And you're saying you'd agree with the local authority what you would do if the actual outcome of the monitoring said it was exceeding what it ought to be. I'm not quite sure what power you have or what scope you have to do anything about it.
Can you expand on that? Should reality not work out the same model, what options and mitigation do you have?
My cynicism sticking it down Gravely Way is that there's less pollution down there because it is a restricted road. So you will come out much better than having it on near the main road.
I think that is thinking about it too locally. These monitors are dotted throughout the strip of where we're looking at the pollution as a whole, not on one specific.
Well, it's a monitor that collects the pollution where it is.
Yeah, but we're looking at the whole picture,
Okay.
not in like...
As the colleague said there, we're interested obviously where we are.
Yeah.
And we want to see the changes if the road affects the changes in our village. And across the whole road.
Yeah, we can find out. That's not.
Can we go back to Hume's point about what scope do you have to do anything about it if it's exceeding your limit?
It depends on the nature of the problem. So I can't deal in hypotheticals. There are things, I mean, the best thing that we can do as the DFT family, as the wider government body, is to encourage or to remove higher polluting vehicles from the road network. That will naturally occur as vehicles get older and get removed from the road because they're uneconomical or they die or whatever happens. There are other more drastic options, if you'd say it like that. So you could reduce the speed limit potentially to get traffic to move in that the band of efficiency, but that would be an extreme step to take. I would suggest. The lady you did mention around traffic using it as a rat run, so that ties in quite nicely to another question that I know that you had around traffic movements and what do we do around that. So again, as during the course of the development of the scheme, that was identified as a concern, not just from you, but from a number of other local villages. So what we've done is undertaken traffic surveys. So we've done those. I did write them down where they are. I think they're on Potton Road. We did them. Yeah, sorry, St Ives Road. So we did. When was it? It was last spring, last summer, before the school holidays. So we did a number of traffic counts, one on Gravely Way, because that was one of the concerns that people would come through, and then out Gravely Way and then down the 1198, and then one on the B1040 as well. So again, we've got that baseline data, we know what that is. We will continue to monitor those. Once the scheme's open, we'll continue to monitor those. And again, should there be an increase that correlates to the opening of the A14, we will discuss with, it'll be Cambridgeshire County in this aspect because they're the local highway authority. We'll discuss with Cambridgeshire County as the highway authority, as well as HDC as the environmental health authority, what the problem is, what the solution to that looks like. Again, in terms of what it could look like, I don't want to deal in hypotheticals because we could be here all night discussing various different, but you're talking things like traffic calming, one-way systems, weight restrictions, all of those sorts of things. So
that
it's not.
suggests to me that you will wait until and if you find these levels higher than your baseline. But
That was always the stated the actual project, but that would be monitored
sure.
before and after,
Yeah, yeah.
and steps would be taken to address it if it was considered an issue.
Did your modelling, you've done modelling as well, because obviously you've taken the baseline, you'll take actual measurements, but you did lots of modelling around the roads to try to understand the impact. Do you happen to recollect whether your modelling showed an increase down Gravely Way?
I couldn't tell you.
Well, I can tell you, because I live very close to it, and I watch it all day long. And I can tell you there's more of your construction vehicles going down Gravely Way. I've stopped 3 of them, and one of them said to me, well, my sat-nav took me down here. And that was one of your vehicles.
Okay.
So, you know, you can say what you like about what you're doing, but it's not really working.
Okay.
Because there's an increase in heavy goods vehicles going along Gravely Way. They shouldn't be there, because it's a 7.5 ton weight.
About construction traffic, that's a separate issue entirely. That's something that I work really closely with Joe on. Any complaints about construction traffic, if you contact either Joe or myself, and I'm dealing with that very closely with the team, and I think Joe will agree that the from when we started out to now, the amount of construction traffic using it is less. We're still working on it. It's still something I mention pretty much every day in our half-hour meetings to try and mitigate it.
Less?
Well, that's fine to say we've got a complaint procedure, but people are cynical here. They think, I'm not going to bother, nothing's going to happen.
I would massively disagree with that, because I speak to Joe
I live
regularly.
here.
I just going to subject here just slightly. For anyone that comes to me and reports highways traffic coming through the village, and I report it to Jade, it is being dealt with.
I know
can't do anything if people
bother to even contact you because they know.
But it is being dealt with
Beyond
when I
you,
speak
nothing
to
is
Jade.
happening.
It is
Why
absolutely
isn't
happening.
this
Let's not get into
publicised? Hang on a minute,
big
Peter.
about
Why
this.
isn't this publicised, Joe, that people should contact you?
If the
public
meetings
forum
at the
and
end of the
every-
meetings or minutes go on websites and on notice.
Before we get into this big debate, every parish council meeting we've had recently, the subject of construction traffic through the village has been discussed. We have put it in the minutes, we put it in Spectrum saying if you notice vehicles going through the village, contact Joe, registration number, time of day, date, and Joe will report it to Jade and it will be addressed.
We are removing we are removing HGV daily from the A14 for doing that, for going on non-approved routes. So if we get the data.
So there you are, my friend. You've just admitted the problem.
We're not saying it's not a problem.
It's something for it is something for us to manage. We are aware that there was a problem prior to us arriving with construction traffic, heavy goods using the local roads. So what we're trying to do is trying to reduce the impact from our works as much as we can. It's never going to be 100%. I'd like to sit here and say, sorted. You know, it's never going to be 100%. All we can say is that if we get the information and if you help us to get that information, that vehicle will be removed from being allowed to deliver to the A14. So it's a curve, isn't it? It starts off with very high numbers, you know, people just ignoring the rules that we put in place. And as we get more and more and more of the offenders, and we see them as offenders as much as you do, as we get more and more of those offenders off the roads, off delivering to the A14, the better it is for you and the better it is for us. So all I could ask is for you to report it to us and they will be removed.
But we do have a zero tolerance policy in place, and if people aren't complaining to us about it, then we can't remove those people off site. But we are acting on it every single time we hear about it. It is my biggest task in my job is to deal with this, and I absolutely 100% guarantee that once I receive a complaint, Joe gets a reply within 24 hours and I deal with it. And unless you're complaining, I can't do that.
But if villagers are so cynical that they think they won't get any support, and therefore they don't
Then it's their own
contact
fault.
Joe,
Because
which
it won't
I
be
know
obvious.
Joe.
There's no reason for that.
But if they're not even getting to Joe, there's a problem.
I think we're fairly clear here, and you know, the management team, it goes through the organisation from the top to the bottom. I'm just reiterating the point other people have made. Don't be cynical, we are trying to act on it, and hopefully you'll see the difference, and people will carry on helping us.
I know you'll do something, but if the point they're not
to say,
doing
since
something.
the off-site road has
So the road linking Wood Green down through here, the construction traffic has reduced?
I hear a lot less from Joe than I used to, so I would like to think so. I mean, they have no reason. The only time they might get diverted is if there's a massive hold up on the A14 and if drivers don't know the area and the sat nav does take them through here.
But the idea is that they go on at Openness.
Yeah. So we instruct them. If they ring us, we will tell them which routes to use and not to use these roads. There's obviously going to be an anonymous. I can't say that word today. You know what I mean? There's going to be the occasion it doesn't work like that. We are trying our best to mitigate that, and the feedback that we get from you guys and the feedback that we get from Joe, I work really hard with the team to try and stop that. And as we said, zero tolerance policy. If the guys ignore us and there's no good reason for it, they don't come back to our site. End of story.
Quickly talk you through what will happen. So you might see a spike in construction traffic happen, and what will have happened is we would have brought a new supplier on board. Yeah. So what we're living in the real world here. So and I'll explain to you what we'll do. So we'll go into that supplier before they start work on site, and we'll induct their drivers. So all the drivers get a delivery driver induction. So you see a little sticker in the window that says I've been inducted for the E14. So we'll actually do that before they start getting here. And there's a lot, there are lots of these drivers. They'll be in the Midlands today, they'll be in London tomorrow. So we get people here that haven't been inducted, and they get inducted before they actually get on the site. So some get done off site and some get done before they get onto the site at our gates. And if we see it, what you'll probably see is a spike in the number of people that the reports that we get. And that's because people ignore the rules, people don't care, they don't know the area, they're following sat-nav, lots and lots of reasons. And then Jade starts working away again, saying we start booting people off site, removing the induction stickers from them, all that sort of work, and you'll see it go back down again. So we are trying very hard to reduce that impact. And the measures that we take, so we don't wait for it to come to us, we go to the problem, and when the problem does occur, we'll start attacking it. So it's not that we're not doing anything. Like I said before, if you report it, we will act on it.
Can I quickly go back to the Highways England original question about you're going to come back to us with information about Gravely Way? One on the modelling, whether your modelling demonstrates or will demonstrate an increase in traffic down there?
I don't know whether it will or not.
Can you check the modelling? Yeah, because we're assured that during the process there will be no extra traffic down Gravely Way. The original models at Highways England came to us because we knew that would be a wrap run. You said our modelling shows there will be no additional traffic down Gravely Way. Now, I believe that model might have changed. So if you could come back to us and tell us what your current model says about traffic volumes down Gravely Way.
So the model hasn't changed since...
And the model did actually forecast an increase in traffic down Gravely Way.
I think if I can get signal, if I can get 4G, if I'm around or if I can find 10 minutes with you, I can answer that tonight because we can have a look at the model. If I can't, then yes, we'll take that away.
Send it through.
Can we send it through you?
I'll send it
And the reason for the movement of the air quality monitor from its original location to Gravely Way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the data you're going to collect, does that get published?
So
I would be interested in to sort of follow it.
it won't be published as a matter of course, not because we're trying to hide anything, just because sometimes scientific data, if we just lump it out there, it's quite difficult to access. So our data, we share it with the local authorities. If you want it, there is no reason why not. We are still a government organisation. We're subject to freedom of information. So actually there's no reason for me to withhold it, because if I say no to you, you just put in an FOI request and then you get it anyway. You know, so you're more than welcome to it. If you can understand it, then you're better than I am. But,
well, there might be others who can.
Yeah, there might be.
It's interesting to follow it.
Or if you want to engage independent consultants to have a look at it, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
Send it to Jan, please. Yeah,
I think the only thing that I would caution is data like that you need to trend. You know, so actually you're going to need at least a year's worth or at least a full season's worth of data before you can start even looking at if there's any correlation there. But
something to add, which we have really like to sort of talk about, is the best thing for, I know it's perhaps a little bit more of the wider environment than here, But the best thing to do for pollution is to get rid of congestion. And that's exactly what the A14 is going to do. You know, because congestion is just an absolute killer. People sat for half an hour just pumping out. You know,
idling vehicles, particularly heavy goods vehicles.
Yeah. So that's the best thing.
It's not really going to be much help having much more traffic within a kilometre of the village, though, is it? Whatever you say about congestion, regardless of it's producing pollution, it's within a kilometre of the village.
So lots of the arguments that are coming out are arguments that were addressed during the consultation period. The decision was made for the A14 bill. Sadly, we didn't come out with much more. It is as it is. We have to work with highways to try and make sure that the concerns of the villagers are listened to with regards to construction traffic going through the village. That's being done. We have to thank highways for coming along and explaining what they're doing. There is the magic bus, I believe. And did I hear it's now on the road?
It is, yeah. So if you've got any sort of events and stuff that you want us to visit, we're more than happy to.
Good. Yeah. So we would we'll ask for a date for you. Sorry? Oh, this is the Highways Agency tour bus.
We've got a visitor bus. So it was felt that if we had a visitor centre, then people would probably be frustrated by the time they got to us after being sat on the A14 traffic, and we'd probably get a lot more angry people than we would in the bus. So we've actually got a bus for the scheme, so it travels around. It's a 3.5 tonne bus, so it doesn't affect any weight limits and restrictions and stuff like that.
But it goes to booked places.
And it goes to different places. So if you've got events or anything like that, if you let Joe know, and Joe can let me know. Yeah. Clean air.
So we will sort out today and bring that over. Ask you to bring it over.
If residents wish to report what they suspect is a construction vehicle, is there something on your website that they can do that?
So we have got I'm not sure of the helpline. We've got a helpline, haven't we? And a
so there's two.
Sorry, I understand what you do go through Joe, but if they can do it
directly, if you want to get in direct contact, we'll leave with Joe details so they'll come out in a minute, but there's an email address which is A14 Cambridge Huntingdon, no 2, just Cambridge Huntingdon @highwaysengland.co.uk, and that will come directly to us, or there's the contact centre number which is 0300 123 5000, which goes to our contact centre.
All the contact details are on the newsletter.
Can I suggest that you put something in Spectrum, which is the magazine for both Hilton and Stanton, those numbers, because it would help other people in other villages as well.
Yeah. Those inquiries come straight through to me for me to deal with anyway, so that's another way of doing it.
It's just
I just have 3 other points.
We'll give it 5 minutes.
Okay, cycling footpaths. Gerald here has been very helpful in describing what you've already got planned in terms of cycling or any new pathways. But from what I can see, they are particular sections of roads. They don't actually come all the way into the village. So why not? It's question one. Secondly, constructing them alongside new roads where there's maximum air pollution just seems to me a bit counterproductive. Is it not some benefit in identifying cycle paths or any new paths away from the roads? To some extent, obviously there will be limits in order to make it safer for cyclists or motorised chairs and stuff to use these things. So 2 questions in mind.
Do you want to talk about linking?
Yeah, do you want to answer the first bit first?
Yeah, okay. So I think in terms of where we locate provision for NMUs, which for those who don't know is non-motorised users, so that's pedestrians, equestrians and cyclists is generally what we refer to. So in terms of why they don't link, it's a bit of an oddity in law. So under our planning permission effectively is a development consent order under the Planning Act 2008. We get consent for the road, which is the development that we have, as well as any authorised development that we need. So that is the Borough Pits siting of construction compounds for temporary whilst we build the road, over bridges, local highway improvements, all those sorts of things. Why can't we connect? In part it's down to the law, but actually in part it's because we have to stop somewhere. If we take it down to the village, it's then, well, you know, which way do you go, or how far do you go? So Gerard will talk about that a little bit more. There is potential to link these. That's one of the aspirations of the scheme. In terms of why do we locate them adjacent to roads, as with anything in life, there's a balance, and we have to achieve a balance. So could we build them, you know, away from roads? Yes, we could, but you then have increased land take, increased cost, more time for construction, additional maintenance or difficulties in maintaining them, as well as the security. You know, there are people that, so on the main A14 by Buckingway Business Park, opposite Swavesey, the original intent was to have the NMU path go behind Buckingway Business Park, and actually all the representations that we had said, if you put it there, we won't use it, because you go away from the main road, you go away from civilization, you're then dark, it's secluded. You know, so we actually relocated it closer to the 14, and personal gut feeling, you know, for me certainly, if I was living here, I'd want to be located nearer to a road than further away. But it's a balance. That's what it comes down to. It's the balance of cost and policy.
Yeah. I think my point about the cost, given the cost to the NHS of people with who are affected by air quality, doesn't quite stack up.
Yes, I mean, in essence, actually, one of the things that I'm responsible for is legacy, where we try to actually join bits and pieces together to actually start addressing some of those issues. I mean, you know, if we started with a whole new road network and started from scratch again, we'd have a nice new system where we had like Dutch roads, where we had cycle routes alongside roads and just slightly further away. You know, I live in London, and when the Jubilee line went in, we had disabled lifts all the way along the new stretch, which is not great for the people who are in the old bit. So I think where we've been building new roads, we put in NMU facilities as a matter of course. So that's standard. I mean, anecdotally, as Chris said, the DCO had limits what we can do. I think we had certain questions about extending. There's an NMU route, non-motorised user route, alongside the local access road, which goes on along the D-trunk stretch to link to Fenstanton. There was a question about that. Is that part of your scheme? Should you be doing that? So that would have limited what we could do. But I think there is a wider issue. We have a budget. We don't have a budget for putting in NMU routes for the whole country. Those would be run by local authorities in the main. So yes, you've got gaps. On a broad level, with the legacy funding we're doing, we are looking at ways, and it is very hard to look at ways of putting in routes, additional routes. I am trying to find funding for that, so I've potentially sourced funding within Highways England for additional funds to do some additional non-motorised user routes. One of those, for example, and this is no secret, is potentially to link Bar Hill, the back of Bar Hill, towards Cambridge. That would be cutting across land. It gets very complicated and is a complicated business. But you know, that's one of the things we're looking at. Actually, somebody mentioned Gravely Way today. Another specific project we're looking at is making, as Gravely Way hits the 1198 and the crossing there over to the route which goes off to the west there, and I can't remember what the name of that route is, but we're trying to, it's Gravely Way, so it's the continuation of, we're trying to make that safer, or I'm trying to get funds to make that a safer crossing, for example. So we've got a series of schemes that we're looking at in broader sense with Cambridgeshire, because again, they're the ones who are going to have to manage those when we finish the project. And you rightly say that we've been talking about using the community fund, which is a fund that we have for small projects, to at least start the process, the ball rolling on some of these schemes. And I've suggested that you put in for a feasibility study to see how you might link up to what we've got currently. Obviously, we have got quite a lot of access of non-motorised user routes. We've got the bridge at Swavesey Services going in. It would be great if we could link everybody to that. That's quite a long process, I think, in terms of getting partnership funding. And you know, my intention at this stage is that we would have had a package of funding that had been accepted already, and then potentially move on to the next ones. That hasn't transpired. It's been a complicated process. So we're trying to do those sort of things through community funds, through the legacy funds that I've got access, and levering in partnership funding. So with the hope that in the medium term we can get a bid for the whole area with Cambridgeshire, with ourselves, putting in funding so that we can do additional activity. But by the same token, that isn't going to link every village along this route to the local access road, because that would cost a significant amount of money. But I think by getting a feasibility study, that certainly gets the ball rolling.
We've started.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The last couple of questions. One about nature reserves, wildlife. We've seen in the past where the gravel pits have been dug, we end up with a nature reserve and a wee lake or something like that. Are there plans of that sort to enhance the wildlife, the nature around you, conservation area and so on? No.
So, do you want me to pick that up? I'm not an expert on the DCO side, so clearly there's mitigation for the scheme in terms of habitat creation and whatever.
So I think actually maybe before we get into that,
yes.
so I can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So, under the DCO, so if we remove habitat, particularly for protected species, we have to provide at least that habitat back, but improved. So actually what you'll find in this region, because it's quite heavily farmed, the habitat is fine, but it's sufficient. So what we do is we replace any of the habitat that's lost through the scheme with high quality designed habitat. So we've got that. That is by and large in place now, because we can't dislocate any species until we got anywhere to put them. So so that was some of the first activity that we did: creation of waterfowl habitat, new badger sets where we were displacing badgers, habitat for great crested newts, bat boxers, barn owl boxers, all of the kind of normal things that you'd think of. So we did that. We've been through one whole trapping season where we trap newts, where we trap waterfowls. We've relocated the badgers that we need to. So that's all done. So in terms of what we do to mitigate against the loss of habitat, we've done that. The borrow pits, which Gerald will now come on to, are an extra. They're an amenity. They're not included in the scheme as part of our essential mitigation for habitat creation. So we've done that. Borrow pits?
Yeah, I mean, the borrow pits, there is opportunities to use the borrow pits for what you've described. Hand on heart, I'd like to say yes, fantastic. We'd love to have recreation areas and all sorts within those borrow pits. I mean, there are certain constraints. The first amongst those, and not least amongst those, is that we have to offer the land back to the current landowner. So they potentially have a view about what they want the land to be used for. So that's a key part of that. One of the other key strategy with the borrow pits is that we return as much land as possible to agriculture. Now, we will do that in as many places as possible. I mean, the location of these borrow pits suggests that the vast majority of them will fill with water. So that isn't going to be large amounts of the borrow pits, but still significant amounts of land returning to agriculture. We will carry on with an ongoing discussion with the landowners, whether they want to have the land back, whether they are prepared to work in partnership with other organisations. So we have started that discussion with other organisations, people like the Wildlife Trust, people like RSPB, people like the Land Trust potentially who might take the land in the case that the landowners don't want the land back. Which, and that actually is something that we can discuss with local organisations. If people are interested and have a view, they want to do something, this is part of that discussion. So we haven't got to the bottom of that yet, pardon the pun in the case of borrow pits, because we're digging big holes, but obviously the most local one to you is Fenstanton, which would be linked south of Fenstanton, isn't it? South of the road there. Which are likely to fill with water. I mean, we would like public access. So we're looking at public access, we're looking at footpaths, but again, none of these things are guaranteed and have to have a long-term plan to take them forward. So it's all part of our considerations, but part of an ongoing negotiation.
Okay.
Can I just ask about barrel pits? Can you rule out one of the options being that it continues to be quarried after the scheme is finished? Is that something that the landowner wanted to do that?
I can talk about the one at the top here, what we call borrow pit 3. By the time the gravels is what we're actually mining, the sands and gravels, and we'll take all of the sands and gravels. So you're talking 4.5 metres deep, and the only thing that you're going to get from that point on is clay.
And I think it's also worth reiterating, because there's other people have raised concerns along those lines. Some other people have raised concerns around landfills as well. So I can categorically state that the scheme permission is to extract the material that we need to construct the scheme. There are no further permissions past that. So if a landowner wanted to take it back, and if it was viable for them to do so, they have first refusal, but they would then have to submit a minerals extraction application as anybody would for any piece of land.
So from all of that, okay, and subsequent to that, if the what if happens, okay, after that discussion, the landowner, if they took it back and they wanted to do more work, extend the pit or whatever, they would have to go for recycling, for waste. They would have to come to Cambridgeshire County Council or the planning authority in that respect.
And it's the same with
that. That is all done today.
And of course, some of the borrow pits, we are reliant on some of the borrow pits for mitigation for some of the from the ecology side as well. So that would be a key consideration within that, and what usefulness of the land is if it's being used to mitigate what we're taking away elsewhere. So I think that's particularly significant in borrow pit 1 to the obviously to the west of Brampton, where significant mitigation there.
My last question is really, I guess, aimed at Jay. Interested in your label, to be honest, the stakeholder manager. Who are the stakeholders?
So a stakeholder is anybody that is affected or deems themselves to be affected by the scheme, either while it's going on or after. So any of you guys would be classed as stakeholders, or the landowners are stakeholders, local businesses are stakeholders, so anybody that's affected by the scheme as it's going on and as it's left behind.
And we're all equally involved,
of course.
And that's why Jake and Joe are working so well together.
On programme, are we actually on programme? How are we doing on the...
Yeah, so we are a little bit ahead of programme. There's quite a few obstacles that are coming up that we've got to get ourselves over, but where we are at the moment in the round, I'd say we're where we want to be. In the early days, it's very easy to slip a couple of weeks as you try to get over problems, and as you get up to speed, it's very easy to gain those weeks back. So we're about where we want to be. Nobody's worrying, nobody's panicking, everybody's quite happy that the sun is shining and we're shifting back.
Good question about archaeology. We're all very intrigued going up and down the road after all the archaeologists streaming over the piece of... when will we get any sight of anything they've found?
That's a very good question. If you wanted to, I'm sure we could talk to the archaeologists and get them to come to one of these events.
There's a piece of work, so we're working with our archaeology companies as well as the county archaeologist who works for Cambridgeshire to agree what the community outreach looks like. So there will be a community outreach piece. Obviously we need to do that once we have, some stuff to show off. There has been some finds, but we expect to find more. When it is, I'm not quite sure. Again, we can try and come back to you, but there will be a community outreach programme, as well as a community dig, if you're interested at some point in the future.
At the moment, they're still digging.
Oh, I know.
The archaeologists, okay.
Furiously, probably, or you fill it all in. So,
they're still digging across the whole route, so until they've all finished, you won't get any because they may find something very significant next week.
Archaeology is going to go on to next year, so
yes,
we're not going to run out of things to find.
But just to pick up on that, in terms of the county archaeologists, they're very keen that we don't wait till the end. This is an ongoing process, and we get into finalisations of our positions with discussions with our contractors there, and so I think it'll be fairly soon that we'll start seeing stuff being displayed, and then sort of the ability to do something locally in the local area. So yeah, it isn't far away. So we won't be waiting 2 years. We'll probably be fairly soon.
Thank you so much. You became my gold coins. Couldn't remember where they were. Thank you so much. What we'll do is we'll at our next meeting, which is beginning of June, we'll talk about events coming up and invite us along, which would be great. There's a few things going on in the summer in the village, and it'd be good if we have that on display. There's some answers to come back.
Can I make a final plug for the community fund? We've talked about it in relation to the NMU route. We are keen to see applications. We're keen to see applications from local organisations. If they've got an interesting project, we want to see a link to the development, to what we're doing, to the transformation it creates. I can discuss that with people. If people have got an idea, give me a call and we'll get that information out to you so you can have a chat with me. We very much like to see good local projects and you know, it's broad, quality of life. It spans a whole range of things, so it's not just that NMU project. So if anybody has any ideas, please get in contact with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please feel free to stay the whole evening, or please feel free to...
for anybody that does have any, I'm only on the corner at the Manchester site, so if anybody is worried about anything, drop me a quick phone, so I will just say that's fine.
You're the most informative lot we've had with these meetings. You're the most informative people we've had.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent. So we will ask the bus to come, the display bus. It was something that they mooted at one of the exhibitions, and it will be around. Okay, so that's we'll do the annual review of Parish Council business. We'll go back to the agenda. So Ken, when you get the phone calls ready, because you'll be on in about three slots time. Sorry. Okay, so over the last year we'd had the same councillors on until very recently, when Justo stepped down due to other commitments. As usual, we thank Justo for all his hard work and efforts over the year. And we're delighted to welcome Ian Stark back on the Parish Council as Justo's replacement. Ian has worked hard with us over the years around trees and green spaces. At the annual Parish Council meeting on the 2nd of May, we had myself and Graham really chosen as vice and he's vice chairman, I'm chairman, and again thank you to Graham and to Joe and to all the other councillors for their support over the last year. It's been interesting. It's interesting to try and do that whole balance thing. And Joe tries to keep us all together on the straight and narrow, all in 10 hours a week, which is excellent, so thank you, Joe. As you know, Parish Council was responsible for some of the street lighting in the village, the maintenance of ponds, ditches, trees and grass cutting. And we've got a good team going around, I think. We have John, Carter, Bernie, Rodney and Duncan. And as a Parish Council, we should extend our thanks to those people for all the hard work they've done over the last year. I remember driving home one evening and seeing John standing on the side of the ditch and Duncan in the ditch, at the Ware, I think it's called, making repairs to where the electric cable was exposed. So that was excellent, what they did there. And I think I see Duncan in other ditches at other times, clearing things through. We've got 2 tree contractors that we're using, and you'll have seen some excellent work done on removing a tree
along the opposite bank of Reeves Ditch, huge dead ash that they managed to pull down without it landing on anybody or in the water, which was really good. And then, of course, there were some other eager lumberjacks in the village who did some of the more easy work that Kieran, Willie, Ian, Duncan, John, myself, Graham took down. You didn't this year, did you? No. I wondered whether yes. And that has, of course, saved the parish some expenditure, and as always, wood from the trees that is cut is put aside locally for villagers to come and collect overall. Other things the Parish Council does is to make recommendations to Huntingdon District Council on planning applications by the Planning Committee. Obviously the Parish Council doesn't make any decisions, it just passes comment. We run a firework display, and this year it was particularly magnificent. And thank you to the firework team for putting on a great show, Feast Week for providing the refreshments, and the councillors and volunteers for manning the event, collecting takings, making sure it's cleared up in the morning, all very well coordinated and supported by the donation that we discussed last year. As we know, work on the A14 has commenced, and Joe has an excellent relationship with Highways England, with Jay, and if parishioners feel there are construction vehicles going through the village, we would welcome a report of time, date and registration number, and as we've heard, Highways will take action against those people who should not be coming through the village. We have a green management group who work very hard in maintaining our greatest asset, 27 acres of open land in the village. Ian, as I mentioned, has worked alongside the green management group throughout the year, and we have got the football pitch used by Fenstanton Football Club, but although they're going to have a reduced number of teams this year, I think it's one, is it? Yeah. They're going to have one rather than three, so that could reduce a bit of the traffic and parking around we see. So what have we got coming up in the next few months? We're going to see the launch of the new Parish Council website. I know that's being worked on hard at the moment. Hopefully it will be a more friendly interface. We'll find out, won't we? Hopefully. Thank you to Kieran for getting that up and running. It will be launched hopefully within the next couple of months. Parish Council is going to look at the footpaths on its land through the village. That we see some of these footpaths out here where the wooden edges are breaking away. And we had agreed at the last meeting that contracts will go out to tender to look at those particular paths and see what work we can do to bring them, tidy them up a bit. Anne and her parish plan group are going to be presenting their report on the actions outstanding from the previous parish plan, and I know as Anne's looking at the possibilities of this cycle path. She's been talking to Gerard and to Cambridgeshire County Council about that. The pavilion work is going on well. An application for a grant has been submitted to look at renovating the cricket pavilion, and we're waiting for the response on that before any action would be taken. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank the members of Hilton Parish Council for their continued hard work and support over the year. It's been a good year, and I look forward to another good year coming up. Next on the agenda is the Parish Council financial report. This year by way of change.
Sorry?
This year by way of change.
Yes, I'm going to present it this year. Right, so this year our opening year balances were £32,736. Closing year balances were £44,380. This includes £7,500 easement money and £1,760 community infrastructure levy, or SIL as they like to call it. Precept for the year is £27,070, and then other income that we had come in was £1,601, which gave us a total of £28,671 plus the easement money. which is to be spent on capital projects even. And the seal, which was the £1,760. Expenditure for the year was £26,287, which leaving a surplus of £2,384. Repeat spend of £3,500 on the sound expert, obviously won't happen, and the £1,913 on the street light removal that we had in the previous year. Then we've also got £1,580 and £984 for tree work, but the invoices for that have just come in, so the work wasn't completed until after the end of the year. So that leaves a deficit of £183. Which is an improvement on last year's deficit of £1,800. The internal audit should be completed in the next few days, and the accounts will be formally approved at our next meeting for submission to the external auditor in June. That's about it.
Thank you, Jo. Next up then, David. Of course you can have a chat there.
Mr. Chairman, councillors, thank you for the opportunity to address the council meeting on behalf of Neighbourhood Watch. You will all be aware, I think, that a Neighbourhood Watch scheme has existed in Hilton for several years. It aims to improve security awareness throughout the village and to foster good communications between the residents and the police. By improving awareness, it's hoped that the scheme will also allay undue fear of crime or fear of antisocial behaviour. For the purposes of Neighbourhood Watch, Hilton is divided into 18 areas. In each area, a coordinator is registered with the police to receive emails that are termed neighbourhood alert messages and to relay them, where appropriate, to residents. For their part, Cambridge Police issue an alert message if a crime is reported or suspected in the vicinity. Crimes include burglaries, criminal damage, or antisocial behaviour. There's always a chance that this will stimulate residents to contribute useful information. The police also provide feedback to victims on what they are doing to tackle a crime. The police publish annual crime statistics, but these need to be treated with great care, because Hilton's figures are included as part of Fenstanton. The criteria for reporting have also changed over time, and the overall number of crimes in Hilton itself are relatively low. The Police and Crime Commissioner issues alert messages to circulate his policy statements and reports. Alert messages have also been used to advertise job opportunities both with the police and the Commissioner. In addition to security awareness role, the Neighbourhood Watch provides an organised communications network that can be used to support the village emergency plan. The coordinator can cascade messages from the emergency officer down to residents and return responses or feedback on any developing situations in their area. Finally, Action Fraud is the name of the National Reporting Centre for Fraud and Cybercrime, which is operated by the City of London Police. They distribute messages in their own right
as action fraud messages. They give warnings of reported internet scams, phishing texts, and email frauds. Recent reports have even included calls from bogus policemen. All have the same fundamental aim of parting you from your money, or obtaining details of your bank accounts, credit or debit cards, and associated passwords. The action fraud messages offer basic advice on dealing with such threats and staying secure, including register with the telephone preference service in order to minimize the number of cold calls that you receive on the telephone. Always be especially wary of contacts that you did not personally initiate, whether it be a telephone call, an email, or a cold caller knocking on your door. Check out unsolicited telephone callers. Use a separate telephone line to avoid line capture. Don't click on internet links included in emails. Always type in the target URL that you want. Remember that banks and building societies do not need to ask you for your full security details. They've already got them. If residents wish to receive alert messages but do not want to join the Neighbourhood Watch organisation, individuals can register with the ECOPS scheme run by Cambridge Constabulary. Simply follow the online link from the police website for more information on ECOPS. Clearly, the more residents who do participate in Neighbourhood Watch, the better it will work. Residents who do wish to join their local Neighbourhood Watch scheme should identify their local Neighbourhood Watch scheme on the National Neighbourhood and Home Watch Network website. I've got the title of it, if anyone wants it. Individuals can apply online to join their local scheme. That's one of the 18 schemes in the village. Existing members are asked to check with their coordinator and confirm that their contact details are fully up to date. For anyone without ready access to the internet, or if you need help in this respect, my phone number is published in Spectrum. If you do need to contact the police, remember that there is no benefit in going through Neighbourhood Watch. Contact the police directly on one of their 2 telephone numbers. Call 999 for emergency assistance if criminals may still be present or when life or limb is at risk. Call 101 if there is no immediate urgency. The Police Operations Centre will assess every call and decide on the appropriate level of response depending on the circumstances. Finally, you will recall that Hilton was initially divided into 18 Neighbourhood Watch areas, each with a registered coordinator. Through the normal turnover of residents in the village, there have been vacancies for area coordinators advertised in earlier parish meetings. However, in the past year, I've really trumped myself and managed to lose 8 area coordinators. Perhaps I've been careless, but no doubt old Father Time and the work on the A14 have had an effect. I've started a programme of trying to recruit Neighbourhood Watch members with a degree of success, although the work is slow. I hope that coordinators will emerge from the new tranche of membership. We remain an equal opportunities employer, so if you fancy a 0 hours contract helping to run Neighbourhood Watch in Hilton, please call my number, or rat on a friend perhaps. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for the chance to address the meeting. Are there any questions?
Ken, it might be worth quickly saying which areas...
You don't get to ask questions.
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question, please, sir? Might be worth just mentioning the areas that you're particularly looking for coordinators for.
At the moment, I'm going slowly and concentrating on the maze, on the area of the maze.
Right.
After that, we'll see where we get to.
Okay.
And I think you know that WI have quite a good link. As soon as anything goes wrong, one of our members contacts our secretary and the message goes out to our 60 members. So we're quite... That's another outlet for information.
Yes. My only anxiety with that is that we don't get everything completely right, and I did end up actually issuing a couple of retractions. Happily, the person who was the subject of my emails was very public-spirited and grown up about it all. But we don't need to test that too much in the future.
And I think, Ken, in the past you kindly offered that if people were interested in the smart water, is it, to mark and identify their possessions, they could come through you and there could be something done.
Right. In the past, smart water. I don't know if you know. It's a fluorescent dye that is coded at molecular level, I think, if not below molecular level, in order to carry a unique identifying code. The East Coast Main Line actually publicised it very clearly when they had exploding aerosols of smart water that dyed people who were trying to steal the copper, and were accepted as evidence in court. The idea is that you put a uniquely identified dye onto your property, and if someone tries to sell it to one of the gold now the gold buying sites, then they are careful and they will look for the presence of this stuff.
How do you apply it?
We acquire it.
Now, how do you apply it to your precious possession?
Just paint it on like nail varnish.
Oh, I see.
It's delivered as a small pot of varnish that you can apply. There is advice in the leaflets on the optimum places to put it. For instance, in a camera, the best place to apply it is actually in the screw hole that's on the bottom of the camera. It's virtually impossible to get it out, to scrape it off. Now, I've spoken with the Smart Water sales team, and they offered me a discount. I can't remember the numbers, but it was a modest encouragement, and relied on us actually getting about 20 people interested in buying the household vials and stuff. If people are interested, then if they'd like to contact me, I'll see if the offer is still good.
Thank you, Ken.
That's about it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks to you.
So next up on the agenda, Ian. Ian, come forward.
Thank you.
Please.
Okay. Joe said to me, don't talk for long, so you'll be glad. I won't. But I thought what I'd do actually just give you some few facts and figures about Cambridgeshire County Council. So I'm going to start with, apologies for reading because I don't always remember all the numbers. How much does it cost per week to dispose of our rubbish and our recycling? Answer, £780,000 a week. Care, we look after 7,500 elderly people per year, and that equates to 1.4 million hours of home care in people's homes. We maintain 2,800 miles of roads, 1,500 bridges, 59,000 streetlights across the county. We transport 15,000 school children to school, considerable amount of budget. We have 2.5 million visitors to our libraries every year. We have 1,200 freedom of information requests per year. We help 2,500 people to give up smoking. Public health is part of Cambridgeshire County Council. The Cambridgeshire County Council budget is 791 million. Income is 150 per year, so we get a lot of income as well. A lot of that comes actually from the large portfolio of farmland. You know, the largest owner of land in the county. A lot of that actually is rented out to farms. I'm sure you're aware last week was an election. 2 weeks ago we had 69 councillors, today we have 61 councillors, and that has dramatically changed what I call the county and who represents them. A lot of the borders were changed last year, and there were a lot of new borders that came. This particular division remains virtually untouched in that respect, but lots of others have actually moved into other areas, and there's been a lot of adjustment to who represents who within villages, towns, and that obviously covers both Cambridge and all the market towns. Other than that, I'm going to keep it short, and that's it.
Any questions for Ian in the last session? Yeah. General questions? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And as a district councillor, Alison Donaldson, sadly on your own, because Dan's not doing that.
Hi everyone. I've just got a couple of things to mention. Doug was going to fill you in on anything else that I forgot to mention, but unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. I was recently part of a CCTV task and finish group where we discussed with local police and HVAC, with the Huntingdonshire Business Against Crime, the effectiveness of CCTV and viability of it in rural areas. This particularly related to Hemmingford Grey, because the Parish Council have been looking into the installation of CCTV cameras following quite a lot of antisocial behaviour and burglaries in the area. After a few meetings and discussions, the report concluded that relative to Hemmingford Grey, the CCTV system at the moment wasn't viable because of the cost, until the system goes digital, which hopefully should be in the summer, and then it will be reviewed again when that happens, because it will be far cheaper to install. Another thing I wanted to mention was that the council's community chest award is open to applications from community groups or voluntary groups locally, which a grant is available of up to £5,000. The application form and information about other grants, such as disabled facilities grants and sports club grants, is available on the Huntingdon District Council website. I should just mention the closing date for applications for the community chest is the 31st of May this year, so not much time really to get those in, but I just wanted to let the council know. And that's something that happens every year about this time of the year. It's sort of the applications are open for a couple of months, and people can apply. And that's all really that I've got to mention, because I say
Doug was going to do something.
Yeah.
But that's fine. And again, any questions for Alison, if we keep those to the general question time, that's all right. There are two things left on the agenda, which is thank you very much. A report from the Green Open Spaces.
I haven't been told by Joe to be brief, but I will. As you know, the maintenance of the green open spaces represents a significant cost to the parish. So I'll go through some of the activities that the work group has been involved with this year. The most significant part of that expense, of course, is the maintenance contract. We started a 3-year contract at the beginning of this year. We've now completed the first year, and so far it seems to be going very well. We've had we described this time last year about the change in the mowing regime in the village. We put more land back to growing hay and less intensive mowing. 3 main areas being the strip to the north of the Fenton Road, the area in front of the Bakehouse, and the area to the south and west of the church. I have to say we've done a review of what happened in the first season. There are some problems which we're trying to address. There's areas where hay's been left underneath trees, which has been not collected when the hay cut's been gathered. There's been areas which have been too dry, particularly near the wall of south of the church. With a couple of my colleagues, Ian and John, we've agreed to make some changes to the mowing regime. One of the other things about the new contract is we do have an amount of hours which are not dedicated to anything. They're directed works, that's what we call them, directed hours, so that as things come up we can apply some manpower to jobs. Peter referred earlier to the repair to the exposed cable by the crossroads. That was one that was done under directed hours. Repairing fences when cars have crashed through, when donutting on the green, that sort of thing. Those type of jobs are all done under directed hours. Talking of which, you would have noticed that we, in order to try and stop some of this activity of cars driving, particularly on the cricket green, during the dark hours in the winter, we have put up some temporary ropes there, just where it's easy run on and run off from the road. It's early days because we only did it for a few weeks, but it does seem to have made a difference. So we will do that again next year, starting a bit earlier. Tree work. We have done a lot of tree work this year. Some budgeted, some emergency work. We've had 2 big trees that have been dangerous, which we've had to deal with. Plus, we've also, for the first time in 4 years, we've got to the end of our list of work that has been identified from the annual tree survey. Just so you know, Ian and a tree contractor will go around and do a survey of all the village's trees and work out what needs doing, maintenance, and also for identifying anything that's dangerous. We have got to the end of priority list C, which is the first time we've ever done it. So that puts us in good stead, I think. You may have noticed the trees that were taken down on Rags Road. Just want to say a bit about that. The reason we did that was because we were trying to solve an ongoing problem with agricultural vehicles crossing across the green and not using Rags Road as the entrance through to the wilderness and then into the fields beyond. The reason given was the access was restricted by growth of some trees there. We applied for planning permission to have them taken down, which we've now done. So we have an undertaking from the farm involved that this summer season we will now have vehicles on Rags Road and not cutting across the green. We will have to do some work in the wilderness to cut back trees there. Unfortunately, we missed the nesting season was upon us. We will do that in the autumn. Ditches, we've done as usual. We did the big clear in January. This is probably the most extensive exercise in ditch work we've done in the village. It seems to have grown each year, starting further out along the ditch and finishing up further on the other side at the end of the green. It was a really excellent job done this year. The significant thing to say is that this was for the first time undertaken under the annual maintenance contract. So this is not a one-off expense as in previous years. This is all catered for as the main contract. Cricket and football pitches have been mowed. Rodney Markham does the cricket pitch, as he's always done, under the supervision of Alan Salem. The football pitch is mowed by the Parish Council, and only the Parish Council. We have stopped mowing slightly earlier this year. The last fixture was played mid-May, and the reason we've done this is to give the hay a little bit longer to get established. Peter talked a bit about paths. We have agreed a specification with the Parish Council, and that specification will be sent out as a tender to get some quotes back in over the next few days. One thing to add on, we have undertaken the clearance of leaf in autumn. That has gone some way to reduce the problem of the build-up of organic matter, which I know has been a problem. Other work, it's just worth saying, the other things that the Parish Council do under this contract is the maintenance of the play park, the Millennium Garden, the maze, which takes a lot of time, and the churchyard, which is mowed. That's all under Parish Council responsibility. And finally, just to suggest some of the jobs for the coming year, and please, if there's any suggestions to add to this list, please let me know. On the list we have the thicket at Sparrowway, to try and reduce that back. Resurfacing of the gravel paths, which I've mentioned. The recutting of the maze, which is something that needs doing. And then the work we've done on the wear previously, we'll keep an eye on that and see if we can find some time to do some work on that too. And of course there is quite an active volunteer group who get involved in ivy cutting and other such jobs, which if anybody wants to join that, please let me know. That's it.
Thank you. And I would just say, the last one, the matter is mid-April, not mid-May. We haven't quite got to mid-May. Okay, thank you very much. That leads us to general questions.
They were all directed.
Right. Okay, so general question time. So in this slot we'll take questions for Ian, Alison or the Parish Council. Anybody like to start?
Yes, can I speak about the footpaths, please? Yes. I don't know if I'm too late to make a plea. I know right from the beginning, when they were first done with the wooden edging, I did complain because it restricted that you cannot walk side by side. But when I queried it, I was told that measurements have been taken to get a wheelchair down, which is fine for the person pushing the wheelchair, but they couldn't have a friend or a relative walking beside them, and that's still the case. And indeed these edgings have now broken, as we all know. Lots of them are overgrown, so it's on a sort of gloomy dark night, you're worried that you're going to trip on the edge because you can't see where the edging are. And I'm also concerned about children on their bicycles. You know, if they come charging along, see people on the path, and they think they can just go onto the grass, they can't, because there's this hidden wooden edge, which I've always disliked. And now some of them are quite dangerously broken now. So, just before you say that, can I just say thank you, because I have noticed that the slats on lots of the rows have been repaired. So thank you for that.
I think it's directed to your husband.
Because it's Cambridgeshire County Council who come and repair the slats on the bridge,
Yeah,
isn't
I've
it?
put requests
Oh,
in
did
today.
they?
Yeah, Joe puts a request in when we were told, and Cambridgeshire County Council.
Okay, I didn't realise that. I thought it was...
So credit where credit.
I don't discuss everything.
So, paths. We've taken some advice from contractors and we've put together a specification. The specification includes the removal of the wooden edges. The paths will be, where needed, repaired, taking the potholes out, giving them a smooth surface, repacking the stone base, and if necessary, widening. We're looking at a dimension of 600 millimetres, which seems to be a good all-round measurement. So if they have got smaller than that, we'll expand them, and then we'll dress them with a very fine gravel top dressing.
What sort of, I know you haven't had your quotes yet, but what sort of prices will
We haven't got the quotes.
Do you have any idea?
Not until it's gone out to
It's not
tender.
work we've done before, is it? So we don't know. That's why it's going out for tender.
that's great.
Thank you.
Can I
Margaret,
have
yes.
a question? As you know, there's something of a baby of mine is the communication that the Parish Council adopts. At the annual village meeting in 2015, I brought the subject up, and you asked me to provide a list of suggestions as to what could be done, which I did, and it was due to be on an agenda in July, and it has not appeared at all since. Can I just remind you what I suggested? I made a resume of what you did do, and I suggested, among other things, a Facebook page, a Twitter account for messages, an email list of recipients, face-to-face open meetings, possibly perhaps half an hour before the meeting, so that people were free to say whatever they want to do, as they can to anyway. And since then I thought maybe it would be a good idea to have street representatives who could then deliver flyers for you, and also you could delegate one councillor as information officer to do publicity and so on. And based on that, there's only 12 actual residents here tonight. At the annual village meeting in 2014, in 2016 you had 6, in 2015 you had 14, and I couldn't find a number for 15, and then for 14 I couldn't find a number. Now, we've got, 900 electors in the village. You really should be aiming for 10% of that at the very, very least, shouldn't you?
For the people that like to come.
Yeah, in recent years we've had as many as 60 regularly. So I think you've got a big gap there, and I would be grateful if some of those things that I suggested that you asked me to do could be followed up and proceeded with, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Peter, what the grass cutting round by Crossroads?
Yeah.
Outside the Crossroads bungalow, and a little triangle in the road, and round the side by the pond. I don't know who's doing it, but oh god, it's a mess. They cut it the other week, and there was tufts of grass, nearly 7 or 8 inches long, and they just left it. And when they cut, they didn't even clear the side of the road, and it just looks an absolute disgrace. Now, John Birmingham, who lives in the bungalow, used to cut that grass, and the councillor, I don't know who it was, told him to stop it, because it wasn't his responsibility to cut it. Now, he used to make a lovely job of it, a nice piece of grass. Now it looks just like a pigsty. I mean, people coming into the village, and the grass is never cut on the triangle. And, you know, if we're paying for that, then I think somebody should be...
Karen's going to tell me who land that
Is it the council, county council?
Yeah, I think so. And they cut it 2 weeks ago.
But have you seen it, Kieran? It looks a disgrace. They've chopped all those little white posts out, haven't they?
So we can, we'll ask Joe to write to the Cambridgeshire County Council and bring that point up.
Thank you.
And Ian will no doubt listen. So thank you, Ken. Any other questions?
I think it would be quite interesting for you to explain the process recently from the Parish Council point of view, the process recently for removing the traveller families from the green.
Yes, I went on holiday.
It all went very well.
Yeah, smooth. It was surprisingly very stress-free.
Right.
Pleased to report because no, actually
Because you were on holiday.
yes. So the process, I'm going to hand over to Joe and Kieran because, like I say, I was sadly away, so I don't. But I know it was dealt with fantastically well and very efficiently.
They knew you were away, that's good.
Well, in Peter's absence, we
got on with it.
We got on with it, yeah. We looked at there is a policy document which actually outlines what the parish council should do, which we inherited from the previous council. Actually, so much is out of date now that we took a different course and we looked at commercial entities which are out there to assist in dealing with this kind of problem. And what I'm talking about is companies which are basically bailiffs with legal departments who can give you the law and obviously the ability to serve eviction notices and also, if it came down to it, manhandle the people off the land. So we found a very good company. They served an eviction order within 2 hours of us making the first contact, with a 24-hour deadline. They left an hour and a half before the deadline was up. We did have on standby a set of bailiffs with police backup and because there was children involved, there was facilities for that too from the police. And also on standby was 2 tow trucks. This company we were fortunate to find really do know what they're doing. They do a lot of work for local authorities, so you may well know them. But it really has was very positive for us because we've got them off for the bank holiday. But it also is good for us to know that such resources are available, and in future we will definitely go down this route. There was a cost to pay, but it was done in such a way that I think the cost was pretty minor by comparison to what we were told it would cost from local solicitors. So generally a very good outcome.
Excellent.
And just thank you to anybody who did some clearance whilst they were going past the site, and thank you to Graham who undertook a particularly nice piece of clearance that he had to undertake. So thank you, Graham, for that.
There is still a wee pile of rubbish in the corner. I wouldn't dare get anywhere near it.
When did you look?
Sorry?
When did you last look?
This morning.
Whereabouts?
Sorry?
Whereabouts?
Well, the whole thing was, when one of our boys, they came and went whilst we were away, and it was very efficiently removed. But where I think they were, in a sort of far corner, near where the footbridge over to the wilderness is.
Yeah. Yes.
As you look at that bridge from the main green side, to the left of that.
Yes.
Someone's put a little tape around it.
Yeah, that went on Monday night.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
The Magic Pixies came. So.
Yeah, well done. Very good.
I also think that was good that it was dealt with so quickly, because word will get round to the travelling community that Hilton don't tolerate anything, don't go there, hopefully.
And it was a nice piece of coordination.
How much did it cost, Karen?
It cost £495 plus VAT. It would have cost more if we'd actually had to follow through with the eviction, but still only in the order of about £550.
Yeah, worth it.
I'm reminded of about 1999
we had True Gypsy
Oh, yeah.
family come with their proper. It was about September time, and there was mum, dad, and a baby, and they were asked how long they were going to be there, and they said they would be there, I think, a couple of nights, and they were on their way to Scotland, ready for the millennium. And when they left, all that was there was that where their bonfire had been, absolutely nothing else. And it was an absolute joy that they were
But there hasn't been
present.
experience, sadly, of other visitors, has it?
Sorry?
Other visitors who have come haven't sadly tidied up as well.
No, that's
behind
why
themselves.
it can be done.
Yes, yes, it can be done.
Mm.
Or we can ask for it. So, thank you very much for everybody for coming. On that basis, I shall close the meeting and wish you all a good evening. Thank you very much.